You are now listening to the Masters Mayhan podcast. Episode 16, The 13 Illuminati Bloodlines, Part 4, The Last Three, or The Judas Clause. This episode may be deemed inappropriate for some listeners. If you have been abused or are a minor, you should stop now. This episode builds on the previous ones. The Illuminati like the number 13 for several reasons. The most important reason is that it is the ancient mystical number of rebellion. It was in the darkness of a Friday the 13th in the secular calendar that heaven's angel of death killed all the firstborn of Egypt. It is the true number of Israel's children if you add his daughter. She would later marry into the royal house of Esau. It is the true ancient number of Christ's leadership. 12 apostles plus 1 Lord. All of these examples speak of change or rebellion to the current system, whether Egypt, Mayhanism, paganism, or British imperialism. You'll remember that 13 united colonies broke the back of the most powerful empire of the day, the Red Dragon of the so-called United Kingdom.
It seems such a shame when the English claim the earth.
Well, we did humiliate them for a time. They have been working actively to rein us back in since the American Civil War. Here's how.
What is at stake is more than one small country. It is a big idea, a new world order.
Now, this isn't where I was born. I was born in Kenya.
Unless we take the action necessary and we build in a greener and more sustainable and more inclusive way, then we will end up having more and more pandemics and disasters from ever-accelerating global warming and climate change.
Wise leaders always put the good of their own country first. The future does not belong to globalists. The future belongs to patriots.
We will never let radical socialists destroy our economy, wreck our country.
Here in Israel, they're making this green passport where the population cannot get into theaters or malls or all sorts of things. They're creating a medical apartheid.
There would be an enormous economic collapse prior to the revealing. The stock market would destabilize. It would make the Great Depression look like Sunday school.
We have 3 more Illuminati bloodlines to discuss. So how is that possible? 13 plus 3 is more than 13 blood-sucking adrenochrome addicts, right? If Satan wants there to be 13, how can there be 16? How does that make any sense? Do I really need to say it again? Have you already forgotten what I told you to remember? No, not that. Lucifer is a schizophrenic. But he gets around his math problem with the Judas Clause.
This is your hour, Judas. Oh, Master. You betray your master with a kiss.
Let's continue with our exploration of the worldwide 13, or is it now 16, new math, hand-mentored satanic bloodlines by stepping into the darkness, or as some Luciferians trigger, I'm the master who pulls the strings that make you dance and trance and sings.
I had strings, but now I'm free. There are no strings on me.
Wake up, puppet boy! Wake up, puppet boy! Wake up, puppet boy! Wake up, puppet girl!
Do you believe in that stuff? Astrology?
Yes, I do.
To what extent?
I have my astrological chart done and I read my horoscope every day.
Wake up, puppet girl!
Creationism.
No one was ever a monkey. Everything is what it was and always will be. God put us here and that's that.
Wake up, Fauci boy!
I should be prosecuted.
Wake up, Morgan boy!
Why
can't I identify as a black lesbian? Wake up, Tucker boy.
The 2020 presidential election was not fair.
Wake up, Fox News girl.
The CDC is now saying there has been enough cases of people who have had the vaccine and then suffered a stroke.
Wake up, puppet world.
Yes, you dance to my tune, little wooden boy.
Lucifer uses fear as faith in his kingdom. He knows that people act out of fear just as he knows that people act out of faith. Just as faith and trust go hand in hand, fear and distrust, paranoia and betrayal, keep fear alive. Fear is a form of chaos, and Lucifer loves chaos. He is not the god of life, nor is he the god of order, although he does have a method to his schizophrenic madness. Any Luciferian wanting the highest praises possible from their master demon can do no more greater evil than the Judas Clause. The Judas Clause is the act of openly betraying someone within your inner circle who has put their full faith and trust in you. It is very similar to the third principle of satanic human enslavement we discussed in Episode 8, To Have No Wish or Hope. So the child will be taught the full shattering effect of betrayal at an early age. This open knowledge of betrayal is part of what makes the act so hideous. It's one thing to betray a friend stupidly. It is quite another thing to betray him with full knowledge of the hurt involved, and with full premonition. The highest damnation possible in the occult is the ultimate desire that Lucifer has for everyone. The final step at the end of every single satanic
Follow the yellow brick road, follow the yellow brick road, follow, 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 follow the yellow brick road
is to cause a son or daughter of God to proclaim to God's face that they would betray and crucify the Son of God a second time if only they could. In the law books of heaven, this is called denying the Holy Ghost, since it is the Holy Ghost who certifies reality before the throne of God. The Luciferians call this denial taking the 30 pieces of silver. It is the highest offense, and is the one that makes a child of God into a son or daughter of perdition. It is an act that is knowingly done, and so it is unforgivable. It all begins with the Judas Clause. The Bible talks about earthly kings and how some of them would reign for a season, while others would be cut off.
Par la guillotine. For France!
Luciferians, like all pathological narcissists, think that since someone said something, it must have been said about them.
Son of a gun.
Everything is about them.
You had one eye in the mirror as you watched yourself go out, and all the girls dreamed that they'd be your partner, they'd be your partner, and you're so vain. You probably think this song is about you. You're so vain.
So some of the bloodlines of Satan conspired to fulfill prophecy with the Judas Clause. In short, it is believed that the Collins and Onassis lines conspired to kill off the Kennedy line via the Judas Clause and gain the praise of Lucifer. They also believed that the Kennedys betrayed them by weakening the British-owned Federal Reserve with silver treasury certificates and calling out the cabal publicly, although not by their name.
There is little value in ensuring the survival of our nation if our traditions do not survive with it. For we are opposed around the world by a monolithic and ruthless conspiracy that relies primarily on covert means.
It also appears that later the Onassis line was overthrown. Some have said by a new line wanting a seat at the table. It is known that the blood of the Merovingians has become so intermingled that today basically anyone who has family ties into any of the European noble family lines has Merovingian blood. Note to you, my listener, I'm talking about you, probably.
No.
Mr. President, can I share with them about what the rabbi gave to you? I think it's special. Since you're Jewish, you understand.
I love you, Christians. I'm not Christian.
The Messiah. So the head rabbi of Israel and Israel, they took the president Donald Trump, his name, and they came out to the same lettering as the Messiah. So it's a very special thing that they have in the Lord.
So my father. It's the same number, you know. It's amazing how it's count, you know.
Perhaps it is no accident that the numeric value of Donald Trump in Hebrew is the same as Messiah, son of David, Mashiach ben David, 424.
The Merovingians were desposine. So you, too, when you betray the Son of God, are just like Judas Iscariot, betraying family.
With a kiss.
So, a new subset was needed to gain exclusivity. You can't teach a moron that he is special, regardless of your hairy butt brother.
Hey, I wax. What of it?
Or your father's crown.
It seems such a shame when the English claim the earth. Mad dogs and Englishmen go out in the midday sun.
If you are not taught to believe that somehow you are above the rest of humanity's worthless, hairy-butted masses.
I said I wax my ass.
In shorter words, by the 1960s, there were 3 holes in the official 13 bloodlines, and so 3 new bloodlines were needed to fill their round table.
I count the spiders on the wall. I count the cobwebs in the hall. I count the candles on the shelf. When I'm alone, I count myself. Oh, yeah.
We are not in any position to know if these rumors are perfectly accurate. You can never tell with the schizophrenic overlord. But, according to the Springmeier satanic bloodline classifications, here is what is said sometimes behind closed doors. The Disney bloodline. It is believed that the Disney bloodline replaced the Merovingian bloodline. Now do all the Disney fantasy castles and every racial princess flavor of the month suddenly make sense? At least Pocahontas was a real princess. Well, we know that Walt Disney did their bidding, at first to keep them from openly shaming him, after he was compromised and blackmailed by actor Spencer Tracy at a male brothel.
Oh boy!
He did later die as an Illuminati member. How high he rose in the organization is not openly known, but he did actively promote the Masonic Demole Club for boys.
Oh boy!
And when he was unable to get American youth to care about that, he formed the Mickey Mouse Club instead.
We play fair and we work hard and we're in harmony. M-I-C-K-E-Y-M-O-U-S-E, Mickey Mouse. Mickey Mouse! Mickey Mouse! Mickey Mouse! Who's the leader of the club that's made for you and me? M-I-C-K-E-Y-M-O-U-S-E, Mickey Mouse.
It was this that both Bimbo creator and Disney rival Mac Fleischer and Stanley Kubrick tried to say without saying. Do an internet ogle search for Bimbo's Initiation Cartoon.
Wanna be a member? Wanna be a member?
No.
And note the mouse who tricks poor innocent Bimbo by locking him in. These men knew what Kirk Douglas learned when he tried to go up against Walt for a contractual slight. "You can't sue a god," he said. We have said before that Walt was difficult for the occult to manage. In fact, so much energy and money has been spent on his personal mythos that most people have no idea that Walt was less than perfect. He is animated today as the perfect American with a Christian heart who only wanted to give the world wholesome family entertainment. His critics have repeatedly pointed out that his canon of holy work does not match his stated desire. This isn't to say that you shouldn't enjoy a day at a Disney park, but it is to say that if you swallow the entire pineapple whip, believing it to be organic, you will be ingesting nothing but the lie of frothy chemicals.
All together in the tiki 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 room, in the tiki 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 room. All the birds sing word and the flowers croon, in the tiki 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 room.
It's also a bitter pill to swallow to pay the entrance fee and then have the park close down at 6 p.m. to save their billionaires money and get you to come back a second time just so you can ride in the Peter Pan boat after having waited 2 hours in line. Are you starting to hear it? Are both your eyes starting to open? The Illuminati ultimately won Walt over when they started a strike at his studio and then agreed to stop it in exchange for various promises. Walt had a nervous breakdown, and when he understood that between the dirt they had on him on his private life and their ability through government regulations to destroy his career and dreams, he gave in. It does appear that when after they had successfully convinced him that he was a product of forced bastardization,
I'm a bastard,
that they knew they had him. Walt struggled with same-sex attraction brought about by a sense of gender confusion due to his overbearing father. As he aged, he did take a mistress, behind Lillian's back. It is said that her name was Dolores Del Rio.
Yo quiero Taco Bell.
Few millennials will probably recognize her name today, but she was one of the most beautiful actresses in Hollywood. She was Mexican, and her likeness was chosen posthumously to be one of the 4 goddesses of beauty who stand as pillars holding up the gateway to Hollywood and La Brea at the end of the urine-soaked and disgusting Walk of Fame on the West End. Bring some mace so you can get past the homeless and the Scientologists.
Dweller H.
As you make your way to see it. It really is a landmark, despite the smell. The plaque in Mexico that marks Dolores' birthhouse reads, "In the history of photography, there were only 2 perfect faces. One was Dolores Del Rio. Walt only did the best." There have been 2 suggestions as to how Walt had met her, either through her gay cousin, the very sexy Latin lover, actor Raymond Navarro,
Yo quiero Taco Bell.
or through Sergei Eisenstein, the famous Russian montaginist. It's hard to say. By the time they were both Walt and Dolores were very famous. The only known picture of them together was snapped on one of their dates by a fan who wanted a picture.
Say cheese!
And didn't know about the affair, per se. When Walt's friends and business partners wanted to honor him and Lillian on a special wedding anniversary with a grand dinner, at the party, Walt got so drunk that whenever any guest rose to give a celebratory speech on their behalf, Walt would interrupt them. He would interrupt them with loud Those in the audience said that he made a total of himself and that Lillian was completely humiliated. The guests knew that the marriage had been rocky, but even they were ashamed by Walt's behavior. It is a much hushed fact that a high percentage of men and women with same-sex attraction end up losing it as they age. This fact was suppressed because it upplays the biblical teaching that humans have free will ultimately, and downplays that you were just born that way without any choices. Supporters of the conclusion that the Disney bloodline was coronated to replace the Merovingian line like to point out that after Walt's death, and after his brother Roy's family eventually strong-armed Walt's family out of the day-to-day business of their company, Walt's family took their fortune and bought a vineyard adjacent to the Rothschilds' sacred vineyard, Opus 1. Meaning the first work, referring to Father Noah and the night he lost Adam's first skin covering when Ham attempted to castrate him, albeit unsuccessfully. It was this moment that brought Mahanism forward into Mystery Babylon, an ancient incarnation of the Illuminati. We will yet gaze deeper into this.
O slave in the magic mirror, cross the barriers of time and space, pierce the gloom and darkness. Let me see thy face.
From all time and distance, across matter and space, your powers have summoned me to promptly show my face. What is your wish, O Master?
We have a lot to say about him, good and bad, like the Luciferian law of karma, so we will share more when we discuss Mickey Mouse programming.
Who's the leader of the club that's made for you and me? M-I-C-K-E-Y-M-O-U-S-E, Mickey Mouse.
The McDonald bloodline.
E-I-E-I-O.
It is said that after the Collins-Bush bloodline invoked the Judas Clause on the Kennedy bloodline and ate JFK's brains to steal the manna of the king and to punish him for undermining our fiat worthless paper Rothschild-controlled British banking money system, the Onassis bloodline was later betrayed or at least burned out, and so it too needed to be replaced. It is said that the McDonald bloodline was given their seat. Who knows? The McDonald family are Scottish and were Druids. While many converted to Christianity anciently, many still practice Druidism today.
In the woods there grew a tree, and a fine, fine tree was he. And on that tree there was a limb, and on that limb there was a branch, and on that branch there was a nest, and in that nest there was an egg, and in that egg there was a bird, and from that bird a feather came, and of that feather was a bed. And on that bed there was a girl, and on that girl there was a man, and from that man there was a seed, and from that seed there was a boy, and from that boy there was a man, and for that man there was a grave, and from that grave there grew a tree. And on that bed there was a girl, and on that girl there was a man, and from that man there was a seed, and from that seed there was a boy, and from that boy there was a man, and for that man there was a grave, and from that grave there grew a tree.
The MacDonalds controlled the islands and coastal areas on the west coast of Scotland. When the Knights Templar were ordered to be murdered by the Pope and King Philip IV of France,
For France!
In part to get their vast wealth and to stop their Gnostic doctrines and satanic rituals, many fled, ultimately to Scotland, and were aided by the MacDonalds.
E-I-E-I-O.
There, these knights helped keep Scotland free from the British Crown for nearly 300 years. When the descendants of these knights, with the Jesuits and the ruling families of the Ashkenazi Jews of Europe, joined forces to create a future New World Order,
If you would like to cure the fever called life, get some relief from all the struggle and strife, the grandest medicine that I can propose is under your nose, a snake in the grass.
They gathered all of the Luciferian clans of the Great White Brotherhood and started the Illuminati on May the 1st, 1776.
Now, Daisy, will you tell us what it is, please, that the maypole represents?
The MacDonalds were important members of the Masonic Jacobin movement, the very same that George Washington warned all American Masons to stay away from. But just like his warning for us to stay out of foreign treaties, wars, and complications, we didn't listen to him, and American Masonry didn't listen to him either. Today, the MacDonald clan has members in a very interesting array of fields, and many are members of the Bohemian Grove.
In the woods there grew a tree, and a fine, fine tree was he.
Once again, midsummer sets us free.
And on that day there was a girl, and on that girl there was a man, and from that man there was a seed, and from that seed there was a boy, and from that boy there was a man, and for that man there was a grave, and from that grave there grew a tree.
Once again, midsummer sets us free.
Did you hear the scream that was muffled by the cheers? In King Solomon's day, these screams were real sacrifices, and were muffled in the same way. In various positions of governmental leadership, they have encouraged greater collaboration with communist dictators, advised presidents and kings, headed secret medical research and human experimentation projects, been members of the steering committee for the Bilderberger Club, held seats on the Trilateral Commission, been members of the Canadian International Affairs Committees, sat on multiple Fortune 500 boards, been part of NASA's Planetary Explorer Commissions, worked on astrophysical projects to determine which frequencies from space impair human brainwaves the best, been leaders in the Order of the Golden Dawn, been very active in UFO research and support groups, work and run many world intelligence agencies, worked in governmental mind control research, were consultants to the U.S. Supreme Court, own and run many banks, are powerful leaders in the stock market, and are major authors in the UK occult book publishing world. One of this bloodline subsets, the Stuart family, has many powerful members in the Illuminati. There is one male Stuart who actually has a stronger claim to the throne of England than King Chucky does. He is 11th in line as a claimant, while Chucky is only 14th. This Stuart claim is a carefully preserved secret by the media. King Chucky is of the Hanover dynasty, which is Illuminati.
Mad dogs and Englishmen go out in the midday sun. Out in the midday, out in the midday, out in the midday, out in the midday, out in the midday sun.
But when this Stuart claimant was asked if he wanted to have the throne of the newly formed nation of Estonia after the success of their bloodless singing revolution in 1991, he said he was not interested. The Stuart bloodline and their henchmen have been an important part of the leadership of Freemasonry down through the centuries. Now, of course, when anyone says McDonald's, the first thought is, of course, the fast food franchise with its golden arches.
And the moo here and the moo there, here a moo, there a moo, everywhere moo, old MacDonald had a farm, E-I-E-I-O.
All worldwide fast food establishments owe their philosophy on hospitality to the workflow which the McDonald brothers successfully pioneered in the 1930s.
E-I-E-I-O.
The corporation that grew from this has been rumored for years to be connected to Satanism. In fact, the book Satan Wants You first reported the rumor that McDonald's owner, Ray Kroc, paid tithes to the Church of Satan to help keep it going. Raymond did spend time while alive with New World Order elites and was a member of the Bohemian Grove.
And round that grave there grew a tree.
But there are two more oddities of note. Some years back, while McDonald's was growing, the U.S. government gave $40 million in public tax money to McDonald's to help them set up McDonald's restaurants in foreign countries. This money was spent under the guise of international goodwill and foreign policy, just as was done to Walt Disney in the 1940s.
Hubba hubba. Stop that.
In 1991, the total number of McDonald's restaurants in Europe alone totaled 959 restaurants. At least traveling Americans felt it was a safer place to eat if they feared any foreign gamboo.
I'd like to buy the world a home and furnish it with love. Grow apple trees and honey bees and snow white turtle doves. I'd like to teach the world to sing. Sing with me. Perfect harmony. Perfect harmony. I'd like to buy the world a coat and keep it company. That's the real thing. I'd like to teach the world to sing. In perfect harmony. Perfectly. And I'd like to buy the world a coat and keep it company. It's the real thing.
The other oddity is so disturbing that we will just let it speak for itself. It purports to be a radio interview with Rabbi Finkelstein.
And, I know you know because I've heard it on your show before. I mean, we steal 100 to 300,000 children a year just here in this country, and we drain the blood and we mix it with the Passover bread, and then we throw the bodies into the slaughterhouses that we own, and we grind up all the bodies in the sausage and the hamburger. McDonald's is one of our favorite outlets, and the people, they eat it for breakfast, they eat their children for lunch, and as Jews, we gotta do what we do. The most important thing to remember between you, Pastor Wickstrom, and me, Rabbi Avi Finkelstein of New York, that we both have two fathers, and so that's why we look at the world in two different ways. Doing a pretty good job right now.
Yes, you've done a pretty good job, but there's quite an awakening coming. And my father, who's not your father, my father Yahweh, who isn't your father, of course, your father is talked about by my father in John 8:44, stating that your father was Satan and that you're the descendant of Cain, who was the first murderer. And you know that's true because you teach it in your synagogue.
Well, that's true, but it's not for you Goyim to know. But right now it's too late. It's over for you white race. So that's why I'm speaking so honestly here, to bring it out into the open so that you can see it for what it is. You've been teaching the people real good, but they don't wake up, do they? You don't get a lot of followers, do they? Because you know why? They're scared of us Jews, because they don't want to be called anti-Semites, and they believe that we're the chosen people, and so that's why we can do whatever we want to do, and we can get away with it because the white men are cowards, and we go to the synagogue all the time and have some Manischewitz and dance the Hava Nagila.
Well, that's very interesting. I understand that, but I also know the bloodletting. I know that on your Passover, which isn't mine, that a lot of little children do disappear, and I do know that, and I know a lot of police departments and agencies have been informed, but you're very open. You're very open tonight. I'm very surprised that you're talking about the bloodletting of the little children, that you put their blood in the matzah balls, and that you eat it on sacrifice on Passover.
Well, there was a Goyim that wrote a book about it back in the 30s. I forget his name at the moment. But anyway, he wrote the book. People didn't buy the book. People don't want to listen. We've been doing this for thousands and thousands of years, since down to Adam's time. We take the children of our enemy, which is the white race, and we bring them to the basements in the synagogues, where we drain the blood and watch them die there. It's very similar to how we do the sacrifices that we do with the kosher butchering, and so we do that, and then we mix it with the Passover bread, and so we eat the blood of our enemies. And the bodies, we're not cannibals, so what we do is we take those, because we can make some shekels, and we give them to the slaughterhouses, and those are pounds and pounds and pounds of meat that we grind up in the sausage and the hamburger, and that's why we made those the most popular things, sausage for breakfast and hamburger for lunch. And so all the Goyim out here are really eating their children. And even when we say this outright and tell you people, you don't believe it. So that's your problem. And even when we say this outright and tell you people, you don't believe it. So that's your problem. And even when we say this outright and tell you people, you don't believe it. So that's your problem.
Now, some internet truth forums say that this is anti-Semitic and therefore can't be believed, since no Jew, since of course they can speak for all 16 million Jews at once, would ever do anything so horrible. I know a lot of Jews, and no, they would never do anything like this. But does that mean that no Jew would do this because the handful of great Jews that I know wouldn't do it? That's like calling all Mormons shits because Shit Romney is a mitt. Or all Catholics are Illuminati because the Jesuits helped found them. Or all ducks are Nazis because Donald is white. Or all people cursed with an Illuminati last name are occultists.
You're like a flower that grew out of a pot of dirt.
America used to be established on individual rights, but somehow we have changed that, where if you offend one bad egg, you have offended them all. The first Mormon, Joseph Smith, was once asked to describe his growing congregation. He said it best. Our people are like a basket of apples. There are some very, very good ones. But if you look at the bottom, you're going to find a few Shit Romneys and Harry Reids. Oh, no, wait, that's not right. Stupid teleprompter. He said, if you look at the bottom, you're going to find a few wormy bad ones too. Oh, well, I guess that's basically saying the same thing. The Donalds, Crumps, Stewarts, Camerons, Campbells, Douglases, Hamiltons, and Montgomery clans are believed to be subsets of the MacDonald bloodline.
Let's do them all together now. Old MacDonald had a farm. E-I-E-I-O.
The Reynolds bloodline. By 1937, the Reynolds were listed as among the top 13 wealthiest families in America. We are indebted to Mary D. Reynolds for helping us understand their admittance to the Illuminati 13. She was from the Mother of Darkness level. We'll talk about that more later. When she wanted to find treatment to undo her internal programming, she helped explain how they were granted a seat. Sadly, since she wanted her freedom, she appears to have also disappeared. We can only guess which fast food restaurant, I can't resist this, made up her last daily grind.
E-I-E-I-O.
The Reynolds made their fortunes in banking, tobacco, aluminum, and mortuary services. They are also deeply involved in occult publishing, both for the occult and for the public. The Reynolds bloodline includes some Dukes, Vanderbilts, Goulds, Drexels, Wideners, Berwins, Phillipses, Hills, Ryans, McCormicks, Bakers, Fishers, Jameses, and Morgans. The Dukes and Reynolds used tax-free foundations as a vehicle to escape taxes and hide their wealth while maintaining their financial power. Many Illuminati families also use foundations as a scheme to maintain powerful and to resist paying taxes. We have already said the controlled press builds all these up to be charitable, when most of the grants by these foundations are self-serving for the benefit of the elite. This means any survivor of satanic ritual abuse calling a hotline is going to get trapped into the Illuminati's net for catching escapees sooner or later. What is surprising is how many church organizations and governmental agencies get money from Reynolds foundations, especially those dealing with children.
I'll get you, my pretty.
Now listen to this recent confession of the lead singer of the popular band Imagine Dragons. We have already pointed out that the occult believes that they are Targaryens, or rather, the sons and daughters of the great dragon. In this, they imagine a lie.
Okay guys, the time has come. I'm just gonna break it quick, clean, get it done with. Doesn't matter that I signed a blood oath. Doesn't matter anymore. The Illuminati's real. I'm a member. It's how Imagine Dragons got famous. I'm tired of the politics. This puts me at great risk putting this out here and telling you guys this, but I believe in full honesty, and Beyonce is not talking, Chris Martin, nobody's saying a word, so there it is, there. I'm going to give you all the details as quick as I can. The president, Elon Musk, vice president, Harry Styles, treasurer, Beyonce, Taylor Swift is historian, and that's all I know. That's all I know.
Thanks, Dan. We already knew that the Illuminati are real, but coming from a Reynolds, it is useful information. But did he really put his life in danger? Or was Dan ordered to do this? Insiders say that Jim Carrey was ordered to expose them, when he basically did the same thing on the Jimmy Kimmel Show. Do an internet search for Jim Carrey's secret hand signal if you want to watch it for yourself. But here is the audio.
Is that a gang sign? Have you, Oh, like you don't know what it is. You don't know what that is. I have no idea. Well, you don't know. Jimmy Fallon doesn't know. David Letterman doesn't know. We don't know. All the comics and show business don't know what this is.
The sign he is making is the triangle with his tongue sticking through it, much like the dog fetish does. In kink culture.
Right? Yeah. What is it? Come on, Jimmy. Seriously, the time is up. People are hip to this kind of stuff. I'm here tonight to blow the lid off it, to be the whistleblower. I'm sick and tired of the secrets and the lies. It is the secret symbol of the Illuminati, and you're a part of it, and it is the all-mocking tongue.
One member of the audience in attendance said that I was surprised to see this later on television. I was there and nobody laughed. The laughter was added in later. We were all shocked. I felt like Jim risked his life to do this. Well, if this was forbidden, why just not air the episode? If you have time to cut in a laugh track, you have time to not air the episode. Jimmy didn't look surprised to me at all either. Now do an internet search for Isaac Kappy, Kappy, cannibalism list, and look at number 6. Isaac died under mysterious circumstances after he released this list. Many say he gave his life to warn us. Oh, by the way, Isaac was a Jew too. See, there are some good ones. You can't say that all Jews are Romney heads, when some give their lives for the rest of us. Unless, of course, you believe the one counts for all, and then they're all great. It is known that the Illuminati are trying to find ways to announce themselves openly so as to prepare us mammals to accept them for worship openly in the near future.
We shall unleash the nihilists and the atheists, and we shall provoke a great social cataclysm which in all its horror will show clearly to all nations the effect of absolute atheism, the origin of savagery, and of most bloody turmoil. Then everywhere, the people forced to defend themselves against the world minority of revolutionaries will exterminate those destroyers of civilization and the multitudes disillusioned with Christianity, whose deistic spirits will be from that moment on without direction and leadership, and anxious for an ideal but without knowledge where to send its adoration, will receive the true light through the universal manifestation of the pure doctrine of Lucifer, brought finally out into public view, a manifestation which will result from a general reactionary movement which will follow the destruction of Christianity and atheism, both conquered and exterminated at the same time.
Unless Carrie ends up a Happy Meal and Dan a McDan sandwich, you can bet that they are still following orders.
I'm going to show you how McDonald's builds a Big Mac sandwich. It starts here with a lightly toasted bun, and then a pure beef hamburger, sizzling hot, a slice of cheddar blend cheese, and some crisp, fresh lettuce. Then, our own secret sauce. The club slice, toasted, another hamburger, and a little more sauce just for good flavor, crisp dill pickles, and the sesame seed crown. This is the sandwich. McDonald's new Big Mac sandwich for the bigger-than-average appetite.
Only time, and whether or not we ever find the body, will tell us. One of the oldest satanic tricks they use is accusing their enemy of the very thing that they are doing. You get points on your satanic scorecard for being a hypocrite in Satan's kingdom. So blaming your innocent enemy of being a sexist, racist, bigot, pedophile, heterophobe, white, Anglican, schizophrenic, conservative, unsympathetic, transsexual, misogynist, hermaphrodite, when in fact you are, gets you Lucifer points on your damnation card. He who has the most points loses his soul. Satan will not support any of his children on the final day, and he will also not pay the electrical bill to keep your cryogenic brain frozen during the apocalypse when at last the power grid goes out.
Gosh!
Back through the water curtain. The occult is run by intelligent nutjobs who follow the schizophrenic orders of their schizophrenic master. If you try and make logical sense of all of their plans, you will quickly discover that they don't make any sense in combination. So we must stress again. Lucifer knows that he is going to lose the ultimate battle, but he doesn't want you or his own to know he knows, until he can get you and them to knowingly and openly consent to the re-crucifixion of the Messiah. At the top, they know their ultimate reward. We will discuss that later. While the majority of Christians do not see their wearing of crosses in this light, Lucifer does believe that his exalting of the cross will ultimately result in the Lord's re-crucifixion. Oh well, as long as you don't wear the cross upside down, it probably won't matter.
Gesundheit.
Rationale for fair use of copyrighted items used. Fair use law allows fair use when copyrighted material is being used to make a specific educational, research-based, scholarly, and/or critical comment on the work being used. You shall know the truth, and the truth will set you free. Masters Mayhan will continue.